I was right! A lot of people had doubted me, but I was right. Coldplay did in fact play a new song at Glastonbury, and it was beautiful. But we'll talk about the Glastonbury performance in a moment because we have some really pressing news to discuss. But before we get started, I just wanted to mention that I'll be giving you all the updates on everything Coldplay related, even going beyond this album. So if you would like to stay in the loop about everything, I would encourage you to please subscribe. Now let's get started. Okay, I told you before that Coldplay had many more tricks up their sleeves and, well, let this picture speak for itself. Yes, it is a new poster, a new code, so let's talk about everything that we see here and all the running theories. So on Sunday, May 23rd, this poster was spotted in London, and as you can see, there is a new color scheme, there are new symbols, and there's this hexagon globe, which I realize is kind of an oxymoron. And finally, there is a phone number seen on the sides of each one of those panels. So as far as the color scheme goes and the new letters that we see, I just wanted to throw out this idea that perhaps this is a new alien race. As we talked about before in a previous video, during the American Idol performance, we saw a bunch of different planets and the new letters on the gear, both of which potentially point to this idea of there being more alien races, and perhaps giving a little bit more reason for the song title The Race being on the album. Just saying. And something important to mention about this hexagon, we saw another hexagon in the middle of the heart at Glastonbury when Coldplay performed a new song, right? So perhaps that was intentional. I mean, this is Coldplay, so of course it was intentional. So if this is a new alien race, maybe within the context of the heart, they would be friendly? I don't know. I kind of like this idea of there being conflict between these alien races that eventually resolves. Like what Chris talked about right before the release of Higher Power, relating the album to current events and conflict, but demonstrating the same themes through these aliens.
I think that we are right now able to imagine alien worlds as a way of saying what we think about life on Earth. It's safer to say it about aliens than it is to say it about humans. But really it's one big...
True, very true.
Allegory.
And now one of the most important topics to discuss with this whole thing, the telephone number. So it's a UK number, and when you call it, there are these alien breathing sounds and this radio transmission sound, which obviously is super on brand for Coldplay, but just so you can hear it for yourself, here's what it sounds like. So, first of all, it's mildly terrifying, but the thing that I wanted to mention about this is that it appears to say June. Now, it's not very clear that it's definitely saying June, but if it is, the obvious relation and the conclusion that we can make is that maybe the album will come out in June? So with our skeptical hats on, let's dig into this a little more. Back on May 18th, we got this seemingly innocent, cool video of a hologram from Higher Power dancing. But if you notice, the number on the building behind the dancer is 216. So perhaps this is intentionally alluding to the idea of the album being released on the 21st of June. Now, normally, I think this is a long shot, but considering that this is a significant astronomical day, I'm kind of leaning further into this theory. So for the Northern Hemisphere, June 21st is the longest day of the year, and it's also known as summer solstice. And given the theme of the album being all about space, this would make total sense, right? The only weird thing about it is that it happens on a Monday. But honestly, they're Coldplay. Literally the biggest band in the world. If they want to release an album on Monday, who's gonna stop them? And the final thing that I wanted to discuss about this alien cipher, random people around the world have been getting these alien postcards, which as you can tell share the same color scheme as the posters we saw in London. So in these postcards we see a lot of the same images and letters, but the thing that's different is the phone number, which if you call, it is the same audio clip that we heard from the UK number. But a cool thing about this number is that it uses the area code for Roswell, New Mexico, which if you knew anything about US alien lore, Roswell was supposedly a UFO crash site, and it's even mentioned a lot in pop culture. Now, related to the same idea, that UK UK number that we saw has the area code for Salisbury, which is the hometown of Stonehenge, which of course lines up with a sunrise on what day? June 21st. So, if you weren't convinced about this June 21st theory, maybe this changes your mind a little. Or maybe I just sound crazy. I'll let you decide. And that's everything so far regarding these posters and these postcards. But I'm sure there's more updates to come, and I think there were even some more sightings of these posters in LA, in Oakland, and maybe some other places. And they'll probably be popping up more, so hopefully they'll be giving us a little bit more information. Now moving on to Glastonbury. One of the most satisfying things about the whole performance came in just the first few seconds when we heard this. Finally, with a great deal of confidence, we can say that the album will be called Music of the Spheres. It feels so good to say that. Now, this robotic voice that introed the set led into what appears to be some kind of intro song, currently titled Music of the Spheres, and perhaps is even the first track of the album. Now, overall, the performance was just visually stunning. I know a lot of people were a little conflicted since it was pre-recorded and there wasn't really a crowd, well, other than the cows.
It's the first time we've played to thousands and thousands of cows.
But honestly, I loved every bit of it, rain and all. Sure, it was different, but they did a fantastic job. But let's talk about the new song. Honestly, when I first heard it, I didn't know if it was a new song or not. And my skeptical brain kind of just thought it may have been a cover with the duo Chris was singing with. Cause like they played covers and tributes at Glastonbury before. So after the song was over, I went onto Twitter and saw that it was in fact a new song. And that's when the excitement really sank in. And props to anyone who knew it was a new song right away. Now let's talk about the song itself, Human Heart. It's very much a ballad and super reminiscent of When I Need a Friend, since it consists of almost only vocal parts that sing in unison and give this vocoder kind of sound. Now, a song like this was almost expected from the album, and we even discussed this in a previous video. Regardless of what the album is going to sound like as a whole, we can safely expect there to be another ballad similar to Everglow or Daddy. And honestly, their slow songs are some of my personal favorites, and to me, Human Heart has the potential of becoming a top song, similar to how I feel about the other ballads that we've seen in the past. The only thing that felt kind of weird about it was the fact that the song is called Human Heart. Like, if this album is about aliens and these alien races, why is it called Human Heart? And maybe just being out of context from the whole album, the song title seems a little out of place, but I think when Music of the Spheres is released in whole on June 21st, it will fit more in with the album. Now, there were some who thought that this song might not be on the album and that it was just a single, and to address that, just looking at the way the song was presented during the set, we saw a color scheme that falls in line super well with the current branding, so it's most likely going to be on the album. But I'd like to hear your thoughts on the song if you were able to listen to it during the set. Like I said, I really enjoyed it. I thought it was very heartwarming, and I could see this becoming one of my new favorites. But I also heard the opposite reaction from some people who weren't too much of a fan, which was totally fine. But yeah, just let me know what you think. And as far as when we'll see this song being released, it probably won't be released until the full album is out, but there's no really saying for sure. I mean, for all we know, that June 21st date could be the official release of Human Heart, and that we'll see the album drop later, maybe in like September. So there's no really telling for sure, and I'm sure you probably want the album to drop sooner rather than later, but I just wanted to point that out because there's no saying for sure. And finally, the last thing that I wanted to bring up in this video was Chris's speech during the Glastonbury set. In it, he talked about how fortunate the band was in being able to play there and their typical message of love, but at the end, he also said something that I just thought was super perfect. He said, "There is no path to peace, there's just peace being the path." So yeah, that was Glastonbury in a nutshell. There were so many highlights to mention about their performance, so feel free to leave a comment below letting me know what your favorite part was. For me, personally, I think it was at the very beginning when we heard for the very first time Music of the Spheres. It was just so exciting and very satisfying to hear that. So just to wrap things up, we have a lot more to decode about these recent posters and postcards, and I'm sure we'll hear a lot more news about this soon. And actually at the time of recording this, the Red Nose Day performance hasn't happened yet, so I know Phil tweeted earlier about the set list and saying stay tuned. So possibly a new song? Another new song? I don't know, we'll see. So to my future self who is editing this video, if there are any more updates since this recording, share them now. No? Okay, so I guess there aren't any more updates for the time being, but trust me, they're coming, and they're coming fast. And that, my friends, is everything that I wanted to bring up today. But if you have not done so yet, please hit that subscribe button so that you are caught up to date with all the most recent Coldplay news. And be sure to follow me on Twitter and all my other accounts for the most real-time, up-to-date news. Thank you so very much for watching, and I'll see you soon.
Look at the stars, look how they shine for you, and everything you do, yeah, they will all